Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So there was a little bit of an update yesterday with a few minor changes, but it does come with the added insignia bonus slot for the Neo Eclipse line and the Rothe Traveler mount. It also comes with a change to the Dragonfire, basically improving its damage as it will now properly hit for 1 second per tick. Previously, this thing only hit once every 2 seconds for the duration of 6 seconds, so it was only 3 hits. Now it's got a total of 6 hits, so its damage has actually gone up. It got a significant improvement. However, there is some bugs with it, and it actually had its damage a little bit decreased as well with module 30, but the overall result is an increase. And we'll look at more details later. But what's also interesting to note is the Coins of Joaquin event will be extended to the 23rd. That means we won't get the Feast of Lanterns until the following week, and you have another whole week with the Coins of Joaquin event if you want to be getting those rewards. And we'll get new rewards with the Feast of Lanterns. It's the Year of the Snake, so we'll get a Regal Cobra mount and a Regal Cobra fashion set. No companion, and we'll have to see what that will look like. Currently we cannot. It's not displayed anywhere as a preview in collections or anything, even looking at the Feast of Lanterns collections here. They did adjust the Cold Light Walker, its place within the reward claims agent. It's now with the companions down here at the bottom. But then the two mount updates, the Neo Eclipse line and the Rothe Traveler mount. I've gone and added both to my 4-slot mount document. This character currently has both of them, and you can see the Rothe Traveler now has an Enlightened as its preferred, which means you can get Mender's Covenant, Executioner's Covenant, and Trainer's Restoration with the preferred extra item level boost there. You cannot unfortunately get Wanderer's Fortune, as that just switches over to Executioner's Covenant, and you cannot get Oppressive Reprieve, as that switches over to Trainer's Restoration. I don't know why it shows that here, it shouldn't. And you can see all the other bonuses that this mount can provide, and yeah, those 3 are the ones with the preferred. And you can see all the other mounts you can use to also get those bonuses, all listed here, with then each mount having its own table here with the full list of them as well if you're interested there. Keep in mind the ones with the stars can get their bonus with the preferred slot. But then we jump to the Neon Eclipse line. This one has then 4 new preferred insignia bonuses. So you've got your Executioner's Covenant, your Guardian Spirit, Survivalist Expertise, and then you cannot have Knight's Rebuke despite it displaying there, as that just switches over to Survivalist Expertise, but you can have Wanderer's Fortune. And you end up with this, the Neon Eclipse line, all those bonuses, and 4 of them which are preferred. Again, it's added to this list here with all the other mounts that can give those bonuses as well. Absolute no need to get this mount, and honestly it's a complete ripoff. The mount doesn't come as account wide and has an insanely low drop rate from the Astral lockbacks. But now we jump to the combat choice item, the Dragonfire, where the dot damage actually got increased. If you've seen my previous video where I covered the details of Dragonfire and compared it to other damage belt items you can use, you would have seen these details. And it effectively had like 254 magnitude against lesser enemies with 750 against bosses. I'm not sure why they aren't fixing that part of it, but it's what we've got to work with. As you can see here, we throw Dragonfire on this like 2-star enemy and the dot damage is only 23,000. But if we throw the Dragonfire at the boss dummy here with 5 stars, you can see it's doing like 212,000. So nearly 10 times more damage against a boss versus a like normal enemy, which is 4 stars or lower. And what I mean by stars is the dots above their hit point bar below their name. So this one's a boss dummy and this one's just a general mob. And I have tested, like went into Zemnid's Reliquary Master, tested against U4 boss, and same. 212,000 damage on the hits there. So what this changes to then is this right here. It's now going to hit for 6 times, but it's still not affected by combat advantage, still not affected by damage buffs, and it is affected by your magical damage boost. So the initial hit is fine. You can read the description, it's 150 magnitude. that works. It scales properly with your stats and damage buffs. But the 100 magnitude fire every second for 6 seconds does not work logically. It just deals effectively 15 magnitude per hit against lesser enemies at like 80% damage buff effectiveness, and then 140 per hit against bosses. That's effective magnitude. That's when you compare versus having, say, the combat advantage and then not having the combat advantage and how that magnitude translates. But ultimately, the total effective magnitude of the Dragonfire against just normal enemies is 240 magnitude, and then against like elite enemies, bosses, 990 magnitude. So this is an increase from what it was before at 750 magnitude, but a decrease against lesser enemies. And the reason it's not a simple increase of 3 hits going to 6 hits is because the new stat changes. Now we can get combat advantage to 120%, and with the Dragonfire not benefiting at all from the combat advantage with the dot damage, it means it's actually losing damage compared to alternative belt items that do take into account the full effect of combat advantage, like your owlbear figurine. So if we compare versus the other belt items in multi-target, Gon's own doohickey in module 29 was better, and in single target, the owlbear figurine was clearly better. Now, with module 30 change, and with it hitting 6 times instead of 3, you can see, and still in multi-target, it's not as good as Gondon's doohickey, but in single target, it's pretty much on par with the Dragonfire. As you can see, 990 magnitude. And if you go for full rotation, like over 60 seconds, you can cast the Dragonfire twice, you can only cast the owlbear figurine once, and so the magnitude Dragonfire overall is better, 4,950 effective magnitude, with owlbear only being 4,000. This is just generalizing based on artifact calls where you would deal like 4 times more damage. Otherwise, if you're in content not doing artifact calls, Dragonfire is clearly better because you cast this twice. That's nearly double the magnitude of the owlbear figurine, with the Dragonfire being 30 seconds and the owlbear being 60. So ultimately, Dragonfire did get a buff, and it's far more usable now. Some classes may not want to still use it, like arbiters, like rogues, where the dot damage may not feed into your Shadow of Demise or your Prophecy of Doom. But everyone else, Dragonfire has just become on par with the owlbear figurine in terms of burst damage, 990 magnitude versus 1000. And then if you want to do DPS, like over time, the Dragonfire is overall just going to be better because of a 30-second cooldown versus 60. Of course though, the owlbear figurine can be easier. Like sometimes you can cast the Dragonfire at the wrong time and then not have it available for the next artifact call. And in that way, if you're struggling a bit with the timing on that, and then you might just be better off with the owlbear figurine, because having it during the artifact call is massive. And if you don't have the Dragonfire for that, then you're just missing a ton of damage. And what makes Dragonfire even better as well is it's very good in multi-target still. Maybe not as effective as Gon's own doohickey, which has a bit of a higher ceiling, 300 magnitude, but it's not that far behind, and multi-target's not gonna matter that much. And they both still only have a target cap of 7 enemies. But that's pretty much it for this update and how those changes affected those items. Again, there's a link in the video description below where you can access this full mount document. If you're building up your character and you're looking for what bonuses to use, you can find all the different mounts that have them and look for what's cheap and available to you. And ultimately that Rothe Traveler is probably still pretty cheap since we just had the Winter Festival. So pick it up if you want any of those bonuses. And yeah, it having now Menders and Executioners with the preferred is very good for like damage dealers who need those stats to cap. My builds pretty much always use like at least an Executioners and then maybe a Menders or a second Executioners. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. A special thank you to all these channel members for your extra support. And we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.